Hi, I'm Old Sneelock. Welcome to another episode of Old Sneelocks Workshop. I'm running into a problem. We talked, well, I talked, probably some of you listened, but I talked about how projects tend to build up on you and run away from things on you and pile up. Well, one of the things that I've been working on is the hoist in the workshop. And man, I could use that hoist in the workshop. And it's close to being done, but it's not done. Uh, right in the middle of that, I ran into something else, which precedent. This is my 2012 Chevy Colorado, and it's been a good truck. Haven't had a whole lot of problems with it. I mean, a few things changed out and a few things wore out. But what I'm running into now, the fuel pump leaks. And it's going to be a bit of a job to get that repaired. What I'm running into is when they designed the Chevys, and when I replaced when I took the bed off the truck on Ryan's Chevy S10, the fuel pump was in the top of the tank, just like the Colorado is. And the fuel pump is held in place with a steel ring. The top of the fuel pump is made out of steel. And there lies the problem. That steel ring sits in a depression in the top of the gas tank, which holds water. Why anybody made a fuel tank with a cup in the top of it that holds water and collects rust on a piece of mild steel that they use as the ring to hold the fuel pump in, I'll never know. Well, to add insult to injury, if you look at a GMC Sierra, it also has the fuel pump in the same place. Yeah, I had one of those too. And the GMC Sonoma, which is a variation of the S10. But they all have another problem. The top of the pump is steel. Now, on the Sierra, it was plastic. It didn't rust. The ring that holds it in place, that's steel. It's still stupid. They put in a plastic fuel tank because the alcohol causes the fuel to suck up water out of the air, and it corrodes. That's why the 8N only runs on what's called recreational gas, which is premium. Premium doesn't have alcohol in it. Well, the premium that you buy without alcohol in it doesn't have alcohol in it. Nearly everything else has alcohol in it because, one of those dumb things that they pass laws about. Somebody thinking that they know more about how to make the world work than you and I actually live in the world. They live in a carpeted airplane ride to home for dinner in California kind of life. We actually have to drive a 2012 Colorado. Not complaining, I like the truck. But problem I've got, the top of the fuel pump rusted away. When I drove to town yesterday, I wanted to get gas in the truck because this is today is the day of my grandson's birthdays. Both Oliver and Mac are having their birthdays celebrated today because this is the day everybody can get together. Well, we were planning on going up, and we bought them a wading pool. Nice big wading pool, 59 inches across. Too big to go in the trunk of the Lincoln. Just barely fit in the back of the truck. But I needed to get gas because I was going to be driving up to Hudsonville. Well, when I got to the gas station, I smelled gasoline. Not unusual. Got out of the truck, smelled gasoline. And I I filled the tank on the truck and drove on over to Myers and got out of the truck and still smelled gasoline. I said, uh-oh, something's wrong. So I looked and I didn't see anything. I thought there was something wrong under the hood. I was on the wrong end of the truck. When I came out of the grocery store and got into the truck, it smelled strongly of gasoline. So I looked underneath the truck and noticed that there was a spreading pool of gasoline on the ground. It was not dripping, but there was gas laying there. And I thought, did I overfill the tank? Did I cause some problem when I put fuel in it? You know, and spray it into the frame, do something. Some stupid thing, but really, I've never had that problem before. And the fill on the fuel tank is closed off. If you drop fuel in here, it'll drop down to the ground, but there's no vent in this area here. The gas cap seals off because of they don't want to have the fuel evaporating out into the atmosphere, causing climate change. Don't get me started. Well, I looked underneath the truck and there was water or gasoline dripping off the inside of this panel. Get down here where I can point to things. There's also gasoline dripping off the frame, and I thought at first that these were fuel lines, and I thought that's a stupid place to put them. They're not. They're the brake linkages. That's for the emergency brakes. So I got to looking, and it was wet all the way up to the top of the fuel tank. Now the fuel tank can come out one of two ways. Well, actually two different ways. You can drop it out the bottom, which means jacking up the truck high enough to get the fuel tank out because it won't fit between the frame and the ground when the thing's sitting on the ground. So you have to jack up the back of the truck and get it at least a foot up in the air. And even then, you're working laying on your back, it's a mess. So I knew that I had at least a fuel line leaking. So I went to our friendly YouTube and looked it up. That's when I ran into the evil phase of the operation. I was up against planned obsolescence. When I looked up 2012 Colorados and canyons, there's a lot of them with problems with the fuel pump because they all have this stupid steel top on the fuel pump sitting in a cup full of rainwater. And I saw them that were rotted to the point you just wondered how in the world they got that far. I think those were trucks that sat in a scrapyard somewhere and somebody pulled it home and tried to work on it. Because I don't think it would run with the whole top of the fuel tank or the fuel pump rotted away. Mine probably doesn't have the whole top rotted away. It's got a hole in it. And as I went through, and the internet is a wonderful resource, I looked at all kinds of situations, and most of them said that fuel tank or fuel pumps on Chevy trucks, all brands, have the same similar problem. And they talked about how you get the fuel pump out, and that's how I found out about dropping it underneath the body or pulling the bed. Now, the first truck that my son had was an 86 S10. And we got it because my brother-in-law's neighbor had it parked in the woods. And he said, I want to get rid of this thing. Do you have anybody that would want it? And Avald, bless his heart, said, well, my nephew doesn't have a car right now and he's getting to the age where he would want to drive. I'll talk to my brother-in-law. So he called me up and said, hey, would you like an S10? I said, what for? He said, well, Ryan might want it to drive. And I thought, well, that's a great way to get him a car. Free is good because the first one usually gets trashed. If you're lucky, they drive carefully and it gets wrecked from mishandling. And if you're not, they wreck the thing at least once, usually 2 or 3 times if they're small wrecks, and that's what you're really hoping for is fender benders. But I went up and pulled that home, and we got it into the barn and tried to start it, and it would start if I put fuel in the carburetor. So, well, it didn't have a carburetor, it had a fuel injection system. If I dump it, gasoline down the fuel injection throat, it would fire and run for a few seconds. But I could hear the pump running. When I turned the ignition key on, the pump ran for 2 or 3 seconds, then it would shut off. And I thought, what's going on here? So we started working on it, and I tried getting the fuel tank out from underneath it. It was sitting in the barn. The barn had a dirt floor. I dug a hole underneath the truck so that I could get in there and take the tank off. I gave up on that because it was a miserable mess trying to get in there, working on my back, reaching up, trying to get off rusty bolts. I mean, it was an 86, and this was 2000 what? 2000 must have been, yeah, right around 2000 itself. So anyways, I said, okay, we're going to pull the bed off so we can get to the tank. Well, pulling the bed off the truck sounded good, but it had been sitting in the woods for a while. And every bolt was rusted. And somebody had decided that they wanted to make the thing into a freezer compartment because it was lined with that spray foam insulation. So I didn't want to go after anything with a torch because I had spray foam insulation everywhere. Well, we chipped off a bunch of that and cleaned things up and finally ended up getting the bed off the truck. Found out that the only thing wrong with it was ground wire got ate off by rodents. Put that back on, then the sensor worked and the pump would run longer, and the car started up. He drove it. Well, I'm in that situation now. So what I want to do is pull the bed off this truck. It's a newer truck. It hasn't been sitting in the woods. It's not badly rusted. It's got some rust on it, but it's not badly rusted. It was owned by a service auto parts store. They used it as a delivery truck. So it was parked in a garage and they took reasonably good care of it. That's why I bought it, because it was a good truck at a good price. So now I need to take off the bed of the truck. That's where we get back to the hoist. There's just me. Now I could ask Lydia to come out, but she could only sit by and tell me, watch my head, and applaud when I get it off. She's not going to be doing any lifting. So now we're back to the hoist again, and I'm thinking, well, I got that hoist like maybe an hour away from being able to lift something with it. So first thing I got to do is clean out the workshop and get so I can back the truck in. When I can back the truck in, then I'll be able to lay on the floor on the concrete, reach up and get those 6 bolts out. There's 6 bolts that hold the bed onto the truck. So I can take those out, then use the hoist to help lift the bed off the truck. Now I have the hoist for the back of the tractor. If the 440-pound powerhouse of a hoist won't lift the body, then I can use the hoist on the back of the tractor. But I looked at people lifting the truck bed off the truck on YouTube, and it was just 2 guys picking it up. So I'm thinking, yeah, it's going to be right around 400 pounds, most. So that's what I'm going to be spending my day doing, cleaning out the workshop, getting replaced so I can pull the truck in and park it inside out of the weather. That'll make it nice because I can leave the door open and have a couple of fans blowing on me while I'm working. And I can get the bed off the truck and get in there and actually see the fuel pump. And I don't want to, we talked about it this morning about buying a fuel pump and having it on hand. I don't know that it's the fuel pump. It could be a fuel line. 99% sure it's the fuel pump, but why buy a fuel pump and have it sitting here with the idea that, well, if it doesn't work, I'll just return it. It's kind of a dumb move. So this is what I'm going to do today. I'm going to go in and clean out the workshop and move things around so I can get the truck backed in. Main thing I got to get is that big bench out of the middle of the room, and we'll go from there. It's going to be fun. I'll give you updates as we go along. I would like to live stream the whole thing, but I don't think that's a reasonable thing to do. For one thing, I don't have anybody to watch the camera, and I don't have anybody to answer questions when you ask, which is kind of rude. So this video is just going out, give you an idea of what I'm doing, and we'll talk to you later as time allows.